Yo, what's happening, people? Okay, so time for another drive and jive, where I drive and jive about something on my mind. And today, I want to talk about the fact that I've been growing stuff like plants and learning about food more and cooking and growing stuff and things like that. And I've been watching a lot of videos on YouTube about it lately as well, and stuff that I plan on doing I haven't done yet, like, you know, turning rainwater into drinking water, you know, stuff. I've just been learning about stuff like that and watching videos about stuff like that and doing a little bit of myself, like learning more about foods and making foods. And, you know, I've been making a lot of peanut butter lately, learning how to make jam and just various things like that I've been doing. And it's kind of interesting to me because it's a type of thing that I never really would have thought I'd be into, or I'd have an interest in. But here I am with an interest in becoming self-sufficient. And I say it like that because it's kind of true, but also kind of not. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself to be a prepper, or, you know, trying to be a prepper in the sense that I don't have any immediate plans of building the underground bunker and stockpiling 3 lifetimes worth of oxygen and tin food, guns and ammunition and fuel. You know, I don't have any plans on doing that. But I guess what it comes down to for me is that living in a city, you know, I think when you live in a city, it's very easy to become disconnected from nature. And I think, to be fair, in London does a lot to have a lot of greenery around. There's certainly a lot of trees as you kind of go around town, and a lot of parks and, you know, open spaces and things like that. You know, in fact, somebody once told me that London is actually one of the greenest cities in the world, which I don't know if that's true, but, you know, it could be. I mean, maybe, but even if it isn't, yeah, there is definitely a lot of greenery around. But even still, it is a city, and I think growing up in a city, you know, regardless of your, I don't know, dispositions or whatever, you know, it's very easy to kind of get caught up in city life, and, you know, everything moves fast, and you got to go get this and get that and more, and work hard and hustle, that kind of thing. And I think it's very easy to become disconnected from nature. And I think that's a shame. You know, I think that's a shame. And I think, like, as technology improves and as societies evolve and everything else, that's all great. But at the same time, I feel like we should always have a connection to nature. And not necessarily because doomsday and everything might go away one day. I mean, that could happen. We could have an apocalypse where you actually might need to know how to do this stuff. That's not impossible, right? I mean, we damn near had an apocalypse not too long ago, right? But not so much, but that. It's just, I feel like we lose parts of our humanity when we become disconnected from nature, and we lose part of who we are when we become disconnected from nature. And just learning about growing things and having a connection and a relationship with plants and things like that. I think, I don't know, I mean, I guess I don't know if I'm explaining it right. I probably sound a bit hippy dippy or whatever, but it just feels like the more we advance as a society, the more we kind of forget about the roots of humanity. You know, like, if you imagine, you know, way back in the olden days of, I don't know, caveman times or whatever, or maybe even before that, where, you know, you had to go out and hunt for your food. You had to come back and cook the food. You had to figure out how to keep your family safe from lions and tigers and bears and whatever, and other predators and crocodiles and chihuahuas probably as well. You know, you had to figure out how to keep your family safe from that. And while doing stuff, cleaning and raising a family and looking after this, looking after yourself, and all that, medicines and how to mend an injury. You had to know a lot of stuff, you know, back then. But then at some point in human history, we started building walls, right? And walls provided a level of safety, which meant, not everybody had to go out and hunt. Maybe only a few people could go out and hunt and bring back the food, while other people stay back and, take care of other things. If you watch The Walking Dead, actually, I think The Walking Dead and shows like that or films like that are a great example. The Walking Dead's kind of fresh in my mind because I watched it recently. But it's the towns that have walls, and the stronger those walls are, the stronger that security is, are able to do more things of like society of old, like, have, whether it's parties or have fun fairs and things like that. You can't have a fun fair if you're surrounded by zombies trying to eat you and think, if you don't have safety and walls, you can't have a fun fair. But walls provided that. And I think like in the world, like that's kind of how it went. Like in the history of the world, it kind of how it went. We build walls, and then we build other forms of safety and other things that keep us safe from various other threats. And then because of that, a lot of us kind of get to live in relative safety, where we don't have to worry about, hunting for food, or we don't have to worry about, being attacked. Well, I mean, you can't always have to worry about being attacked. Just keep it real. If you live in a city, you're going to have to worry about being attacked. But in the general kind of scheme of things, you don't really have to worry about a lot of things that you might have had to worry about, a million years ago or whenever it was, right? And by now there's generations upon generations of us that have just grown up and never really had to really think about these things. Most of us don't, unless you specifically went into that field, right? But most of us don't. And I think and especially if you live in a city, we don't think about becoming farmers, and for the most part, it's not something we think about, but we need farmers. We don't really think about stuff like that, agriculture and, whatever. Like, the only time we think about plants or flowers is like, buying something to make the house look pretty. But we don't really think about growth and the cyclical way nature works. How when plants die and they decompose, and it becomes, compost and soil and regrows plants, and even weeds, how they provide a natural fertilizer to the plants around them. We don't really think about that, but this is all nature, and it's all a circle of life that a lot of us become disconnected from. And for me, it's like, so learning how to do these things has kind of been a way of reconnecting to some degree with nature, learning more about cooking and what to do with the waste, or what we would call waste. Like there's so many things you can do with with banana skins. You just throw them away and don't even think about it, but it provides a lot. Like it can be composted, and even coffee grounds being used as compost or as soil nutrient. Like there's so many things you can do with what we typically throw away, because we just don't think about that relation with nature and how everything ultimately returns to the earth. So it's become kind of a way of reconnecting with nature in some way, and I think that's important. I think that's something that a lot of us lose, especially if you grow up in a city. A lot of us kind of lose that connection, and I think it's important, especially with AI and everything else that's on the horizon. I think the more we advance as a society, the more we need to reconnect with nature. It doesn't seem to go that way. I think the more we advance as a society, the more we disconnect from nature, as it seems to have been. But I'm really starting to believe that the more we advance society, because these advancements are important. I ain't saying we shouldn't have them, but they are important, and they are providing, or hopefully going to be providing, a lot of useful things for people. But even still, we need to still maintain that connection with nature and the life around us, and the relationship with plants and, trees, the fact that we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. We breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, and then trees take in that carbon dioxide and return it back into oxygen. There's a relationship there that a lot of times we just don't think about. So yeah, I feel like that's what's needed. with a lot of us. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who've figured that out long before I did. But I feel like that's what's needed with a lot of us, that reconnection with nature, forming that relationship with nature, and all you can do with it, from the foods we eat to the plants to vegetation, and I know I'm not going to grow enough fruits and vegetables in my back garden to live off. Fortunately, my back garden ain't that big. But let's say unfortunately, my garden ain't that big, so I'm not going to grow enough to live off. But it's not about that. It's not about growing enough to live off. It's just knowing that it can be done and knowing how to do it and having that relationship with nature to be able to do it. So yeah, hopefully that ramble made sense. But yeah, that's what I want to talk about, just reconnecting with nature. Yeah, I think a lot of us need to do that. So anyway, till whenever, if ever, peace.